Hey everyone, welcome back to the Restored to More podcast. We are so excited for our guest today. You guys, Sam is awesome. And why I say that is because I've read a lot of books in recovery, and this is one of the top for sure. It totally challenged me. It resonated well inside my spirit, and I'm just so excited for us to have this conversation today. I'm excited for this conversation to bless you, and I'll stop right there so that we can get into the
Well,
questions.
let me tell you a little about Sam Jolman. He is a trauma therapist with over 20 years experience in specializing in men's issues and sexual trauma recovery. Being a therapist has given him a front row seat to hear hundreds of men and women share their stories. His writing flows out of this unique opportunity to help people know and heal their stories and find greater sexual wholeness and aliveness. He received his master's in counseling from Reformed Theological Seminary and was further trained in the narrative focused trauma care through the Allender Center at the Seattle School of Theology and Psychology. He lives in Colorado with his wife and three sons, like us, with three boys, which is great. The three boy club. And they enjoy a ton of camping in Colorado and a bunch of fly fishing and just a bunch of fun as well as CrossFit. So, Sam, I love your bio. It says a little bit about you. We're going to learn a lot more about you, but thanks for being on this podcast.
Clint and Cherry, it's such an honor to be here and swap some fishing stories to start with off
Yeah.
off recording. But I love that you were fresh from adventuring out in the wild
Right.
with your three boys, and that's so fun.
So good. Sam, we want to start with, it's not, you're like, oh, the inspiration behind this book, inspiration behind what you do, where does that come from? What made you've been in this field for 20 years, long time to be in this field, helping people, men, women, couples, all this stuff. What made you get into this field and what's kept you in this field?
Mm. Yeah, I would say, obviously, as most authors, I'm writing to myself, a younger version of myself. And I remember coming of age as a young man and within the church as a Christian and feeling and experiencing my sexuality I felt set up to see it as this thing I needed to be afraid of
Yeah.
or wary of, and it was kind of this monstrous thing
Yeah.
that would probably become out of control at some point, or at least that was the fear. And so I came of age with a very behavioral approach to sexuality. I needed to make sure I wasn't lusting,
Yeah.
um and then I got married and found that I actually didn't know how to relate with my sexuality in a meaningful way, I
Mm.
guess, or how it was actually a blessing from God and it was meant to be a part of the journey of marriage. And so my wife and I, early in our marriage, just struggled through how to engage and do the dance of sexuality, so to speak,
Yeah.
and in romance. And so that led me into counseling, which is when I discovered I had a whole sexual story,
Mm.
right? That there was so much more to the conversation than just my
Sex.
behavioral
Yeah.
approach to
Yeah.
lust, right?
Totally.
And or pornography use. And so that all of that behavior had deep meaning and deep
Mhm.
story behind it.
Mm.
So, and that just took so many years of addressing that journey to finally come into a way of embodying and really befriending my sexuality.
Yeah.
Um, and so, even reading, I remember as a young man, even reading things like Song of Songs and
Yeah.
seeing this man who was very much like the romantic and the lover who clearly loved sex, right?
Yeah.
Song of Songs,
Yeah.
both men, the man and the woman in Song of Songs love sex, but they also are wildly romantic, right?
Mm.
They're writing literal love poetry
Yeah.
to each other. And so trying to find that guy in
Mm.
myself
Wow.
took a long time.
Mm.
And learning how to really embody what I say in the book, as the lover heart,
Mm.
that romantic self, that Song of Songs lover who's writing poetry, along with engaging physically, sexually. So first, I'm writing to him,
Mm.
and then I think as a therapist, uh, you know, at one level, that could have been just a journal entry, right? I could have just written journal entries to myself, that younger self. But I started to see the same pattern with other men in counseling, where as
Wow.
soon as we started to talk about sexuality, right? It was really about behaving or not behaving
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Versus like
Um,
that story you're talking about. I mean, yeah, I mean, I love what you said in the beginning. It's like there's this whole depth of this story behind those behaviors, those actions,
yes,
all of that. Yeah.
yes, and it seemed like um, the men that I sat with would say either I'm doing good or I'm not doing
Mm.
good, and it was very about behavior. I'm
So
lusting,
true.
or you know, oh, I looked at pornography again, or and it was always about that kind of conversation, um, and never a curiosity. It just felt like there was no um knowledge or awareness of how to step into the deeper story, like I didn't have when I entered counseling.
Yeah.
So I just thought to myself, man, there's got to be a better way to start to talk about sexuality among men,
Yeah.
um, that actually engages the whole person,
Mm.
right? That doesn't see sexuality as this like separate self, or just this like itch you need to scratch
Yeah.
in a marriage, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, you got to get your sex like a multivitamin every once in a while, um,
Totally.
and it being very behavioral and um, like, man, there's so much more to men. I think even, you know, it seems common that we say that, you know, sex is for men and romance is for women,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? Which is such a setup for both men and women,
Yeah.
Mm.
right? Which is to say, actually, men are deeply capable
Yeah.
and deeply long for emotional connection.
Mm.
Mm.
And women are just as wired, equally as wired, to experience sexual pleasure as men.
Yeah.
So I mean, it sets us up to stumble in both places for men and
Totally.
women. So, um, again, trying to recover that
Mm.
whole self for men around their sexuality.
So
I love that.
good. So good. Well, let's dive in.
So wait, real quick, what you said is so you can, if you have internal problems, just become a therapist, and then you'll discover all your own damage as well as help people. So everyone listening to this, like, that's good to know. If you have internal struggles, just go on the journey of becoming a trauma therapist, and you'll discover all your own personal traumas,
Right.
and then
You
help
know,
others.
actually,
It's great.
I got, as I say in the book, I got caught looking at pornography at age 19.
Yeah.
That's what got me into this whole
Mhm.
journey.
Yeah.
I got caught looking at pornography. I was a commuter to college
Yeah.
for my sophomore year on. I went away to college for freshman year, and then, um, and I thought I was going to get the same treatment in counseling, which was the behave or not behave question
Yeah.
that a therapist would beat me up. And it was actually as I started to talk with that therapist for a
Mm.
while in college that I started to get this curiosity
Mm.
Mm.
um, around like, whoa, there's more to this conversation. He didn't beat me up.
Yeah.
He was actually really kind. So,
Mm.
um,
I
yeah,
love that.
so yeah, it
I
started
love it
with
because
going to counseling.
I think there's so many men. If this is the first podcast they're ever hearing from us, and this is like you're new to listen to this, I think that's where it has to start. This isn't about, hey, oh, you had a bad week, okay, you struggle with pornography, or oh, you've had a bad month, or oh, you've relapsed. This is like, no, what's going on underneath it all, and what's this bigger narrative? What have we? What's that dialogue that we've told ourselves? We're going to talk a lot about. I think I really want to get to shame being a huge component of this because for you, Sam, you mentioned shame numerous chapters and so many spots, but it starts young, and then we start to have these, I think, these deep seated beliefs that kind of drive our behavior and drive our way of thinking and drive that internal narrative that we have decided is truth. And what I loved about right in your book, it was like, okay, let's address a bigger problem beyond our behaviors, because that's what's driving it. And that's the belief of what is our identity? What is our body? Is it innately good or is it bad? Is something we should cover up with because it's shameful? Or should we go, maybe our bodies, maybe actually they show God's glory. So we have a lot we want to get into, and I couldn't be more excited about this conversation because I feel like, wow, we have a lot of similar values and views on the what the Bible is saying about this and how to walk in sexual wholeness. Because sexual wholeness does not, please hear me clearly, it does not mean just the omittance of behaviors that are painful. Like that is so far from sexual wholeness, right? That just kind of happens as a byproduct. So
Yeah.
yeah, take
So
it away.
good. Well, let's dive in. You talk about in your book, you say we must learn how to handle and receive the power of beauty within us.
Mm,
What does that mean?
that was good.
Yeah, you know, um, I think it starts with just honoring that God has never made an ugly person.
Mm.
That every single human being bears the glory of God. And if now you might recoil at somebody and say, "Oh, how is that possible?" I've certainly
Sure.
met people that seem very off-putting or ugly to me.
Sure.
And I would say it's probably either they're hiding,
Mm.
right? Some people hide the glory of God in them or sabotage it. But I would say, or you only address the surface, meaning true beauty is the ability to move people,
Yeah.
right? The ability to put people in awe,
Mm.
and which I would say is if we sat with any human being and heard their story, pretty quickly, I think we'd all be moved by just what it means on a daily basis to live your individual life through the suffering you've gone through, the story you've had, right? There and we fame is so fickle this side of the kingdom of God, this side of heaven, right? This side of Eden, right? It's we see it as for the popular people or the influencers, but I would say, if we had a chance to stop and just hear somebody's daily story,
Mm.
we'd have enough to be in awe of what they overcome. So
Mm.
true beauty is what I would borrow from a man named Dacher Keltner. True beauty is moral beauty.
Mm.
It's it's the stories of how somebody overcomes things. It's courage, it's virtue. And yes, is there something to superficial sex appeal, attraction? Yes, there is. That's a thing. But what matters most to us is um what's kind of the heart of a person.
Mm.
Um Dove Beauty did a like the beauty company did an experiment. I think this was in Portugal, where they had men sit down and they showed them what they would say is kind of objectively beautiful supermodels, right? And then they had them sit in a chair and they checked their pulse, and they had the men make like subjective comments about what they experienced as
Yeah.
they saw these supermodels. And then they, without these men knowing, they put in pictures of their wives or their daughters or their mothers,
Mm.
even or sisters. And then they again asked the men, check their heart rates, and asked the men to comment. What they noticed is that the men's heart rates did not change when they saw a supermodel.
Mm.
The men could comment and say, yes, she's beautiful. They could make comments about her beauty, but it didn't move them.
Mm.
Like literally didn't raise their pulse.
Yeah.
But when they saw pictures of their wives, like some of the men broke down crying, their heart rate spiked,
Yeah.
right? In other words, and their faces lit up. In other words, there was something about knowing
Yeah.
the women, right?
Yeah.
That actually moved them at a deeper level. So that's
So,
beauty.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and at some level, lust is a refusal to let somebody actually have power over you.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah. Unpack that
I
a little
I
bit. What do you mean by that?
lust is I am not going to let all of you in.
Mm.
Mm.
I am going to have power over you. I'm not going to
Sure.
let you overpower me.
Seems
Meaning
more
if
like a
we
consuming, like I'm going to consume this versus I'm going to join in with this. I'm going to be a part of it.
Yes, well said. Right. I'm going to split you up into body parts,
Mm.
Yeah.
meaning I'm going to stare at only a certain body part you
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or I'm going to make you into my own fantasy person
Sure.
Mm.
in
Sure.
my head, but
Yeah.
I'm not actually going to know you
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep.
or your story or what you're
Yep.
going through or what you've
Yep.
suffered, right? I'm not going to actually know you.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, because to know somebody again is to be undone by them
Mm.
Totally.
at some point.
Yeah.
So, lust would be, again, I will have the power, not you.
Yeah.
Mm.
Why do you think so many men revert to lust versus being? I mean, this is the first conversation I think a lot of people even having about beauty. What is real beauty, right? And so I think we get what you're saying. I think I conceptually go, okay, Sam, I get that. Like, and there are moments, right? There are moments in movies, there are moments in real life where the beauty is like, wow, you're right, Sam. I can think to a moment when I experienced true beauty and it was powerful. But why is it that after years of maybe looking at pornography or using sex in ways to cope with anxiety or fear or pain or whatever, why do you think men are so prone to go quickly to lust? And maybe it's because of what you said, like we're scared to let to kind of engage in real beauty. Why are we so quick to consume that and to go, I'm going to use this beauty that I've labeled on the outward appearance versus kind of engage and understand what true beauty is? Where's the gap there?
I would say at some level, I think it's because most compulsive sexual behavior is an attempt at soothing
Mm,
something that's already overwhelming in you.
mm,
So most guys, I don't think, enter lust simply as like the abundance of sex drive or like this just this overwhelming sexual urge. Like, sure, I think some of that could be present,
yeah.
but for most men that I sit with, it is the overwhelm of something else in their life.
Mm,
So they've had a fight with their wife, and that distance makes them so overwhelmingly angry,
yeah.
or they've had a failure of a day, nothing went right, and they're
Yeah.
so stressed out or overwhelmed by that, and they want relief.
So
So
good.
they want to feel some sort of soothing or ego stroking, right? Some sort of confidence soothing, some sort of comfort, right? They don't want to actually be undone by beauty. They don't want something else overpowering them, right? Which true sex, true beauty does. It requires you to be undone.
Mm.
Um,
So real quick right there, so I want to ask you something. So before we get to the more of the beauty, I think a lot of men in their lack of understanding, I don't want to be like, oh, you're immature, but it's lack of understanding. They would label that a sex drive. And I know you have some things to say in your book about that. I think a lot of guys go, yeah, but my drive is so intense. What would you say to somebody who's like, oh man, I feel like my sex drive is so intense? How would you and what you've understood kind of help them understand that a little more, that maybe it's not actually a sex drive?
well, I would start by saying, in general, percentage wise, do men tend to have a stronger, higher sex drive, so to speak, in our language than women, higher libidos per se? In general, yes, but it's only like I think it's like 30% of couples,
Hmm.
right? To where, and then there's another 30% where it's the same. My math's going to be off here. So the percentages are off. And then there's actually relationships like 20% of couples where the woman has a higher sex drive.
Hmm.
So, right, is it possible that you have more desire for sex in your marriage? Sure,
Yeah.
right? That can be a thing. But what I'm talking about is like um often I'll ask guys like, "Well, what's the context
Yeah.
that you started to feel that desire to lust? When did you start to feel like you wanted to act out?" My sense is most guys don't stop to reflect on that. Like, whoa,
Yeah.
what just happened?
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
They think it's late at night. I don't know. I felt really aroused and I wanted to look at porn. Um, and they didn't reflect on the fact that they had a fight with their wife 3 hours earlier and they went to bed without talking. Right, and not stopping to think that's actually probably more what's driven you to feel triggered,
Yeah.
right? And so they maybe weren't aware of all the emotional stuff that led to the sexual triggering into arousal, right? In other words, you can have eroticized anger, you
Hmm.
can have eroticized anxiety, you can have eroticized loneliness, you can have eroticized guilt, meaning the triggers could be something that you didn't know was linked to your sexual story, your sexual arousal template.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's only coming on your radar when it's, oh, I feel really aroused.
Yeah.
Um, and I would say, well, stop and check in on the context
Mm.
Mm.
for that
Yeah.
arousal.
Yeah. I really want to sit here in some of this because I think it's really good, and we get questions a lot, like from women saying, I saw my husband look and notice a woman, or, and then they're all, mad, and, or is my husband always going to be tempted, or is my husband always going to be attracted to other women? And I would love for you to give us a definition. You have a definition of awe, you have a definition of sexual arousal, and you have a definition of lust, and they're all different. Can you help me
This is
understand?
so good. This is so good for like a lot of couples that we talk to are like, yeah, we walked by and he noticed her and therefore he's lusting
Yeah.
because and then the woman notices that she is an outwardly, attractive female. And that's typically it, right? I feel like most females are like, oh, it's not like anybody. It's the woman that looks like, okay, she's outwardly beautiful or has an attractive appearance. And then
Yeah.
if the husband looks like, are you serious?
Well, I
So
just think
I
we
do
live
love that. Yeah,
in an over sexualized world, and
totally.
there's beautiful people around all the time.
Yeah.
And so for me, I just think there's a lack of training and understanding
100%.
personally after reading your book on understanding it all. But I would love first to even just dive into your definitions of awe, sexual arousal, and lust.
Yeah.
What are those? How are they
Yeah.
different? Go for it.
Okay. That's great. Let me start with just delineating awe and desire, and then we can go further into awe and lust,
Okay.
because
Perfect.
that's in the desire category.
Okay.
So arousal is a body statement. Arousal is a description of the physical response your body has to sexual stimuli.
Hmm.
That's all it is.
I love that.
So, and again, I'm making it simplistic.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Good.
in your body, it feels like more, but um, the researchers Masters and Johnson from the 1960s did a lot of research on what they called the sexual response cycle.
Mm.
So it is the path your body travels through in to reach climax, orgasm, to resolution.
Mm.
So it starts with excitement or arousal, and then there's kind of a building point to a plateau, and then that builds to climax, and then you have resolution. It's the same for men and women. The only difference is that men have a longer resolution time or refractory period than women do. But otherwise, you can't jump steps.
Mm.
This is the path your body goes through to reach climax. It is wired into you by God, which is beautiful for pleasure. Um, it's a body experience. It's not moral. Obviously, it can be a part of immoral activity or moral activity, but sexual desire is what happens in the heart. So, do I want this or not? And what do I want about this? Why do I want this? Right? In other words, it's not as simple as, well, do I want this or not? It's,
Mm.
well, maybe I want this, but it's wrong to want this.
Mm.
Or maybe I don't want this, but my body feels aroused. Now what? Right? In other words, within the realm of desire is a whole world of complexity. But, when we talk about consent, we're talking about the world of desire.
Mm.
And how do you know if you want something or not? Well, you check in with yourself. Do I want this or not? You start to explore it. So, why does this matter? Because I think it's important to honor you can feel arousal without desire.
Mm.
How did I come to enter this conversation? Primarily as somebody who engages sexual abuse. So it's called arousal non-concordance. And what it means is that these can operate separately. Arousal and desire can be separate. And like happens and can happen in sexual abuse,
Mm.
meaning your body can have a physical aroused response to something that is also traumatic and harmful to you. And I've had victims of sexual abuse say to me, it feels like my body betrayed me.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why would my body feel arousal
Yeah.
at the hands of my abuser.
Mm,
I hate that. What's wrong with me? Right. And they can really turn on themselves with
Mm.
self-hatred. But it's understanding that your body is not, it's just responding to sexual stimuli,
mm,
things that are sexually relevant to you in your story.
Yeah.
So, can you, in a different way, could you walk past somebody who's beautiful and have a body response of noticing them? You can.
Mm.
And is that inherently lust? No, right? What matters next is what happens in your heart.
yeah, it's good.
You could say, as I say in the book, you could just say, "Wow, that's a beautiful woman," or "It's a beautiful man," and thank God for the beauty of the human body, and essentially move on.
Yeah.
Or the question becomes, what's happening in your heart? So let's say you're a spouse walking with your husband, and he's just looked at a woman. It could be he's just noticed beauty. The tension becomes, right, what's happening in his heart? And if you as a woman have felt betrayal, of course, you're going to be wondering, is he taking his heart away from me right now? Is he going further in his heart about this other woman? Right? Is he in a fantasy? Is he, in other words, withdrawing from me or rejecting me in the name of going with this fantasy?
Yeah.
That's a fair question.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So being able to be, I would invite a pause to be curious
Yeah.
and to ask,
Yeah.
are you going somewhere? Right? It's not a given, right? That's where lust can happen. Um, the Bible Project guys, Tim Mackey, and John, I forgot his
Oh,
name,
love
but
those guys.
the biblical scholar Tim Mackey, he was talking about Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, in that section where he talks about, if any man looks at a woman lustfully, he's already committed adultery. And he says the best definition he sees or translation would be any man who goes on looking to cultivate lust or for the sake of lust, meaning it's this idea of going on looking,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That you're actually going further and you're now participating more actively with a desire to covet
Yeah.
and write a fantasy story or do more in your head, right? That's where sin/lust happen.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what's the story you're writing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that so, so much. And I love just understanding, like, hey, like, what just happened inside of you, your body is communicating something to you, and then you can respond in a healthy way just by, you've said this in your book too, but like even noticing a beautiful sunset, and just being like, that is beauty, right? It's being like, wow, like, thank you, Lord, for this beautiful thing that I get to see. And but that's it. Like, you don't consume the sunset, right? You don't try to like
Right.
overpower the sunset. It's like, I love that there's a difference between noticing.
Noticing.
That's why I love the going back to beauty, like noticing beauty versus lust, because lust is consuming, it's powerful,
Yes.
versus beauty is like just saying thank you, God. It's
Yeah.
appreciating that what God created versus looking. I just think it's so sad when God did make that individual, and then we're like telling ourselves like, oh, like we're trying to conquer and manage behavior. So then we go, and then we have shame if we're looking at that person and feeling bad for making that we thought that they were beautiful. There's just this
Yeah.
battle,
Right.
right? That's
Yeah.
so hard.
We can't say how many guys
Right.
we work with where like they feel like when their wife is around, all they need to do is like look at the ceiling.
Yeah.
Like don't make eye contact with any person that is a
Yeah.
female. And if a female comes by, like look at the ground, look at your hand, look at your wedding ring, like just do something.
For me too, to get on there is like a lot of his friends are in the realm of recovery, and they like won't even give me a hug. They won't even like
Mm,
look me in the eyes, and I just get so uncomfortable, and I tell them, and I'm just like, man, it makes me sad that they're not just seeing me as a daughter of a king, that they can't engage with me as a daughter of a king. And granted, I know like maybe they will get there if they're working on it. I pray that they do, but it's just sad. It's sad.
Yeah.
yes. Yes, right. And we can get into the muck of repenting of having a body,
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
right? Rather than killing the flesh. And I think that's what you're acknowledging is like, um, it's okay to be moved by another person. It doesn't mean you're lusting. And, I would say, in fact, um, at some point, I love what you're saying, Charity. At some point, recovery needs to involve being able to make eye contact again, right? That you can learn how to appreciate and let somebody overpower you and stay curious about them,
mm,
um, and not retreat from them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yes, if you're used to objectifying and not knowing how to, it might take a while.
yeah.
Um,
Well, that's it right there, Sam, because I think that's the key. Like, so looking at my own story, right? Me, it's like, okay, I can notice a woman that's beautiful, and then there is a very like stark difference between noticing and consuming or lusting or fantasizing or whatever have you. And so I think where I think it's confusing is that there is so much shame and there's a lack of ability to understand true beauty. And so, yes, are a woman's eyes beautiful? Totally. Is her body beautiful? Is her skin tone beautiful? Her breast, her butt? Like, okay, is there beauty there? Yes. But what I love about what you are writing is that beauty has to go way beyond that. And I love that because what makes Charity so beautiful are all those things that I just said. Her body's beautiful. So
yeah.
Sam, I love what you're saying because for the person who is trying to avoid lusting and going further into fantasy, I do think there's a component there of understanding true beauty. And I think this has been a journey that I've been on for a long time. And it's that, yes, can eyes be beautiful and someone's skin tone be beautiful and the way their hair is, what they're wearing be beautiful? Can their body be beautiful? Their body parts be beautiful? Absolutely. But I love that in your book, you talk about beauty is so far beyond that for a human, for a person.
Mhm.
And Charity, I'm very attracted to her body outwardly. It's beautiful. But even beyond her body, I believe I'm even more attracted to who she is. It's how she mothers our kids. It's how she loves me. It's how she serves sacrificially. It's how she loves Jesus. It's how she loves other people. And we've talked for a long time that those are what attract us to each other the most. I mean, I think she's physically attracted to me too, but I would hands down, if you said what part of you is Charity most attracted to, I would say my heart, because she's said that's the most attractive part about me. And I think that's where I think we want to help people understand that beauty has to go beyond that. And I love that you addressed that in your book. If somebody is struggling with that, I think for most of my life, beauty was so surface level, right? Beauty was just what somebody looks like. It was their body parts. And I couldn't see beyond that. What would you say to a man or a woman who's struggling to see beyond those parts of beauty to get a fuller understanding of what beauty is?
It actually involves, ironically, the use of your imagination.
Hmm,
It's probably the place that you've maybe cultivated fancy.
sure.
But, let me give you an example. I was at Costco getting gas. This was a few months ago. Um, and
With
a
gas
number of
prices,
months
everybody's
ago
getting
now.
Costco. Everyone's getting gas
That's
at
right.
Costco. Like, how can we all
That
say
line is
peace,
long.
right?
This is true. This was actually, I'm remembering now, a year ago. But yeah, I was after work. I was driving home. I was running low on gas. I stopped to get gas. On the island over, right on the other side of the gas pump, is a woman, and I notice she's beautiful. And I know in that moment, I feel right the body
Yep.
response,
Yep.
and I think, okay, I have a choice here. And what I think it requires is some ability to let a person undo you, to take you into your own core needs.
Hmm,
So, but it starts with this. I started to let myself imagine, who is this woman?
Mm.
And she was dressed really elegantly. So I let myself imagine, I got a sense she was on her way to a dinner date with friends, maybe her husband, maybe on the way to a play, right? Or some community event. But it was like there was a dignity to her. And it wasn't like she was in business attire, right? Like she was dressed up for something.
Yeah.
And so I thought to myself, okay, God, what does she stir in me?
Mm.
So first I started with trying to imagine a story of her. Now, I don't know, right? But I was just trying to let myself empathize with what might be true of this woman,
Mm.
given what I know just from her dress. Um, and then I think it requires next letting this person take you into your core needs. Awe always moves us into our core needs. So the first thought I had to myself is, gosh, I feel really tired.
Mm.
Meaning, when I didn't let myself just go right to lust and I let her actually move me, it took me into my tiredness. And I thought to myself, I actually want to be the kind of man who's on the way to a dinner party
Mm.
or a play or a
Mm.
concert or a
Wow.
community event. Like, I actually want that myself.
Yeah.
Right. And so it helped me connect with, I'm coming home from work. It's been a season of being tired. I'm drained.
Mm.
And so I actually, this woman's dignity then let me have a conversation with God about,
Mm,
I want to be well kept.
mm,
Mm.
I actually want to be a man of dignity.
mm,
Um, and so she finished pumping her gas, drove away. And I actually felt myself like saying a prayer for her and thanking God for how she had beautified herself. And how there was something about her that exuded dignity. So I would say, you know, two things.
Mm.
Try to imagine the story of the person that you're struggling to objectify.
Yeah, the
Um,
actual story, their story, to give them dignity, like you were saying.
right, right. And if you can, get to know them. Maybe it's somebody you actually have a relationship with.
Yeah.
Get to know them. Find out what they've suffered and endured. Get to know the real them. Um, but beyond that, and I had a man even say to me, your book has ruined my ability to use porn because now I'm curious about the lives of.
Yeah.
He was telling me the story of, and he's given me permission to share this. He said, I was looking at pornography and I stopped and practiced what you said, which is try to take in the beauty of the performers.
Yeah.
And he said it killed the mood
Yeah.
because I was suddenly undone by, who are these people
Mm.
and what would actually have them in this industry,
wow,
Yeah.
and allowing this kind of thing to happen to them.
wow.
Yeah.
So again, I'm saying let yourself start to
Mm.
imagine their story. Second would be then address the core needs that get stirred in you. Is it loneliness?
Yeah.
Is it a longing for, you know, uh
100%.
dignity? What is it?
Yeah, a connection, so many things. I mean, even just eat, like just, yeah, I think about that. And I love that you said that, Sam, because I think this is where there's a great way to process this. And there's just the unhealthy way that just leads us back to shame and condemnation and the cycle of addiction. And yet, if we were able to understand what are those core needs right now, then we could address them in really healthy ways. We could actually, if I'm feeling lonely, I could call up a friend and say, hey, can we hang out right now? I'm feeling kind of lonely. And seeing this
Right.
beautiful woman expose this. What I also love about what you said that's so deep and so profound in your book is that awe always leads us to gratitude. And so here
Yes.
you are, you have this awe of this woman. It exposes your core needs. You then take those to Jesus. Like, yes, we can go to people and relationships in the church, and I love that. But if we go to Jesus, who wants to ultimately meet our needs on the deepest levels ever possible, he meets those needs. We find our needs being met, and where does it take us to? Gratitude. Now we can honor
Yes.
the person that we were maybe tempted to go a different route with, we can look at the people in our life and we can love them. We can be more abiding in Jesus, have a deeper, intimate relationship with Christ, and then go, wow, I'm so grateful for the things in my life, for Christ and his presence. I mean, you just, somebody practicing that would have a transformational experience compared to
Yes.
their entire life of what has happened when they have just seen a beautiful person.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I want to honor like, that moment was fairly simple to get access to my core needs. That
Yeah.
core needs question can be very confounding.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have no idea what I want right now.
Yes.
It feels like all I want is sex, right?
Yeah.
It can feel like, well, I just want to lust. That's what I want, right? What do you mean? What do I want? And I would say, sometimes that's a really complex question.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and you actually need to sit with maybe even some of the themes of your fantasies,
Yeah.
right? It may be deeper than just the moment. It might be past trauma. It might be historic stories of your life. Um, right? That moment felt accessible, and I'm grateful. I
Yeah.
could connect with my heart pretty fast, but it's not always that way.
Yeah. You have three boys like we do, and I'm sure your boys have noticed beauty. Is this something that you have taught them at their young, early age? Like,
How old did you start talking about it?
yeah, is this kind of the steps that you would do? I mean, we
You want to make a shift into parenting? You're like, let's shift into parenting real quick.
parenting,
I love it.
one parenting question, and then I want to go to some other
This is just our way to get free therapy with you, Sam. Really, this is like, hey, we
It's
got you
awesome. I
here,
love it.
obviously. But no, our boys love to fish and surf, and unfortunately, the trend here in Southern California, I don't know if it's everywhere, but bathing suits barely are covering anything these days on the
Mm,
booty, and so our boys see a lot of butts, and
They do. They say that there's butts everywhere. We're
yeah,
at the beach.
and I think we're doing an okay job talking about it, but I would love to
How do you
hear,
begin this conversation? Is that what
yeah,
you're saying?
mm.
How do you begin this conversation and how do you cultivate this theme in young children?
Yeah, yes. People in Colorado wear a lot more clothing than that, so we don't have um uh beaches and butts. But
Yeah, there you go.
uh but I would say, it starts with just um this is simple. So let me get to just beauty in general and then how you address human beauty. I would say to start with just a practice of stopping and noticing beauty.
Mm.
So again, Costco. I don't know why all my stories are about Costco today,
Yeah,
but
they're getting a lot of
um,
promotion right here. They
that's
better
right. That's right,
I'm gonna
man.
reach out afterwards and say, can you support this episode? Because
That's right.
you're in here a lot.
We're already giving you a shout out. Just sponsor us. I guess with three boys, right? You're there a lot. But we walked out of Costco. This was last fall, and while we were in Costco, there had been a thunderstorm, and we walked out to a full arc rainbow,
Mm.
like 180-degree rainbow,
wow.
Wow.
and most everybody was not stopping.
Mm.
Like everybody was just rushing to their car. It's Costco. You're trying to get in and out, right? And I knew this is a moral moment. I feel like it. I have to stop my boys. I have to stop my family. And just in the middle of all the cart traffic, we're just going to stop and take this moment in.
Yeah.
So we did. And I said, "Wow, guys, let's stop. Like isn't that incredible?" So I just awed. And they kind of eye roll a little bit at me like, "Oh, dad, it's another,
Yeah. Dad moment. It's
beautiful
totally dad
thing."
moment.
Right?
Here we
Like,
go.
and but then um recently my youngest son said, "Dad, uh this was still in the winter time. Dad, you've got to come see this sunrise."
Mm.
And secretly I'm like pumping my fist like, "Yes," like,
Yeah.
so just stopping and letting beauty overpower you. The beauty of a fish, um, the beauty of the surf, right?
Yeah.
Smells, good food.
Yeah.
Just practice healthy sensuality, um, beautiful music. Um, And then when it comes to human beauty, I think being able to leave room for like, yeah, God made bodies beautiful, didn't he?
Mm,
Um, I think when I've noticed my sons looking, or um, there's, a girl that they think is cute in their class,
yeah,
we've talked about like God made, um, God made humans beautiful, didn't he?
yeah,
And so being able to just honor that, or sometimes they'll even be in awe of like the muscles of a big lifter, right? Or like an
totally.
athlete,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know, or
For
like an
sure.
incredible dunk
Yeah,
or
yeah.
football catch, right? So even there, being able to just normalize um, human beauty in terms of like incredible feats of athleticism,
Mm,
right? So just honoring kind of all versions of glory, human glory, the glory of nature, trying to normalize that as like it's not something that you need to hide
or be ashamed
uh, or
of
be
noticing.
ashamed of,
Yeah,
right? Because I don't want my sons retreating into themselves and having to feel like they have to feel embarrassed or hide
sure.
the fact that they might feel
Yeah.
drawn to the women at the beach.
So interesting. You see
Um,
a rainbow or a sunset, and you're like, dude, look. But you see a beautiful woman, and you're like, oh, like, should I be looking? Like, should I be noticing? Right. And I think there's that immediate shame that's created in the Christian
right,
circles more so than the secular. The secular will be like, walk
right.
up to be like, wow, you are just gorgeous. I just want you to know that. Like, you are so beautiful. Versus the
Yeah,
Christian's like, you better not notice her. You're like, oh,
yeah,
much less think about her and think about noticing her. You're like, oh, damn.
right,
So there's just this voice of that where I hear you going, oh, let's change that. Let's just go,
right,
wow, dad, she's really pretty. Like, wow, she's beautiful. Yeah, you're right. Cool.
right,
God made beauty.
right,
So cool how
right,
the body amidst God's artistry
right,
and like leave
right,
it. And
and
that typically with kid, that's all it's going to do is like, yeah, cool.
right, right, right. They won't be as at war with the arousal or what's moved in them as much, right? It won't be like, oh, there's something bad and I need to push it away because that's right. That's what can get you into the shame spiral
Yeah.
Yeah,
and the war with it. So,
yeah,
um, I do, we have talked about pornography, with my oldest two in particular. Um, and so like, what does it mean to honor beauty and
yeah,
treat bodies as sacred? We've talked about like, when we've been to the beach, like, um, what's dignifying,
yeah,
what's not, and um, just asking them questions, trying to get them to dialogue about what they think,
yeah.
honors the beauty of bodies. Um,
Well,
just getting curious.
and
I
you
love
say
that.
too, like in your book, which I just thought this was such, I've never heard anybody say this before, but you say in your book, glorious things are veiled and clothes are a literal and symbolic veil of glory. And I'd love for our listeners to kind of like, what did you mean by that?
Yeah. Yeah, theology of clothing, right? That's a whole category. And I obviously have an opinion there, but I was taught, I think this is somewhat uh, common teaching that like clothing are given as a covering for shame,
Mm,
right? That Adam and Eve needed clothing because they sinned and they were in shame, and they needed to cover their bodies because now they're shameful.
Hmm.
yeah.
Which I equated probably simplistically as like, well, that means bodies are shameful
Meant to be covered. Yeah.
Mm.
Like, okay. Yeah.
and need to be covered. And I would say, and yet the theme in the Bible is that glorious things are covered.
Mm.
Um, like, the Holy of Holies,
Yeah. Even
the
God's
Ark of
glory.
the
Yeah. Totally.
God's glory, right? The Ark of the Covenant, Moses' face when he comes down
Yeah.
from Mount Sinai, or even I learned this recently, the word for tunic,
Mm,
which is the word there for the clothing given to Adam and Eve. The next time it's used is for Joseph's coat of many colors, which
interesting.
is which is a
Wow.
glorious piece of clothing for us, right? Wrongfully, his like favorite son.
Sure. Yeah.
right? But again, it's to symbolize the
Yeah.
covering and veiling of, it's a glorious piece of clothing.
Mm,
And the next time after that is for the priestly garments,
mm.
which
Well,
are meant to symbolize, right? They're extravagant and beautiful and ornate.
yeah.
So again, I just think the theme of clothing is that, like,
Mm,
outside of Eden, we need to veil. There's almost like nakedness is too much. It's
mm.
like too much. So God gives us the ability to veil ourselves,
Well,
right? And so that we get to choose, we get to have power where and for whom we disrobe,
mm.
right? I mean, it's the symbol even in a
Yeah.
wedding, right? Of
Yeah.
a bride represents the veiling of glory. It's again hearkening back to Moses, um, and that she, you know, is symbolizes the unveiling
Yeah. Well,
that the bride and groom will do for each other
yeah.
emotionally,
Yeah.
but also physically, right? When
Hmm.
she lifts her veil. And so, and obviously Paul carries that forward when he says, "We all with unveiled faces reflect the Lord's glory with ever increasing glory." So, um, I just think, you need to treat your body. It is a work of art.
Mm.
Um, and you get to cover it because your glory is almost too much
Yeah.
for people.
Yeah. So,
And you get to decide when you unveil.
so good. Mm.
So good. I want to ask one more question before we end it, and I know we're already like over time.
Way over our typical time. This
This
is
is great.
conversation.
I'm loving this
Oh, this is so
conversation. So
fun. So fun.
Listeners, you guys, we've only dived into like a couple chapters.
No, you have to read his entire book multiple times. It's
Well,
awesome.
2 chapters.
Yeah.
I will ask one more, and I know you talk about this again in length in the book, but it's a very interesting take on the purity culture. And I would love to hear for you. You say, teaching a man that purity is the sum total of his sexual ethic will lead
Mm.
him to kill off something good within him.
Oh, I love that you're going there for endings. I wanted to say something about that. So keep going. No, no, go ahead.
No, you're, and that's all. Keep going.
I'll let you. Okay. I'll just preface it with this, Sam. With when I love that people are going to hear this when I'm talking about this. When I read your book, it's like something came alive in me, and
mm,
I couldn't smile. I couldn't help but smile when I read your intro because I hadn't read it before your book, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna, and so, and then I read your intro, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it says aliveness, and I'm like, how crazy, because there are certain things that connect us back to our Maker, and when certain things connect us to our Maker, when they remind us of Eden,
mm,
it's like I can't make any emotional thing about it, to be honest, because it's like, oh, I know that's my Maker. I know
mm,
that's how God designed men. And there is a beautiful part of masculinity that is strong and that is a warrior type and that is also a poet and that is so in love with beauty and enamored by it in a good way. I think that's why I love that David was a mighty warrior and also a poet, right? And a writer and a singer and songwriter. And I think it captures so much of God's identity for men. And so I just want to thank you for that piece. And I hope more men read your work because of that component to it. Not only
mm,
is it there's so much truth and there's wisdom and there's just incredible perspective, but there's also this genuine tone and this thread throughout it all that weaves us back to, man, how did God design us as men? And I agree. I think we've just lost sight and we've lost it, right?
mm,
It's been so tainted, it's been so damaged. Um, and we've I don't know, my words are escaping me, but we've devalued it and we've lost touch with just God's design for masculinity. That's maybe one or the other. My favorite line about that was when you said there's an old proverb: never hand a man a sword who can't dance. Did I get that right? Is that the
yeah,
right proverb?
yeah, yeah.
And I love movies like Gladiator, like all the ones like that. But if you look at Gladiator, for instance, what motivated him to be an incredible warrior was love. It was
Yeah.
a love for his wife, it was love for his kids. It was love for honor.
Right. Right.
It's what led him to victory in that in that Colosseum time and time again. It wasn't because he just wanted revenge. There was a sense of honor that he was fighting for, right? A
Yes.
Rome that he knew that was great. And I just
Yes.
think like inside of us all, there is that desire
Yes.
for honor and dignity and beauty. And I just think that's such a component that we don't pursue beauty because of trying to consume it, but to protect it. And if more men got that, we would live in a different world today. We would live in
Yeah.
a world ruled by, and not ruled, but I would say stewarded by men who knew how to steward those things well. And I just wish that we had more of that. So yeah, back to the question. I just wanted to, there's my soapbox of how moved I was
That's
by
funny.
your book,
Yeah.
but it moved me so much. And I think I found my words there at the end. But I'm grateful, Sam. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. That means so much to me. Obviously to hear how God met you
Mm.
in the pages of my book is like the best thing in the
Oh.
world. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. And yeah, I think um, purity is something that we're called to, sexual purity. Um, and I just don't think I think it's still secondary, as I say in the book, to encounter,
Mm.
worship, right? Purity in the Bible, cleansing was always preparation for worship,
Mm.
right? Cleanse yourself, God says at Mount Sinai, because I'm going to meet you.
Yeah.
And so I think, it's easy to, I think, get stuck at that purity and not realize that if you can't be moved, if there's not a place to let yourself be moved, then you've missed something. So that's what I'm trying to address there, Charity, is like what um as I say, I think the goal, the best kind of bedrock for your sexuality is innocence.
Mm.
And innocence is, in the words of Dan Allender, the ability to be in awe. Um, that you can still be moved by God, moved by the beauty of his world, and then even in your own sexuality, that there's place for you to be moved, that your purity is always serving that you know how to be with your arousal, how to be with your sexuality, how to be with your heart. Um, whether that's to move towards somebody, right? To pursue them romantically, or if you're not in relationship with them, how to, you know, thank God and move on, or, you know, turn it into some other kind of relationship, meaning friendship or whatever, right? But you know how to be with the part of you that's moved um, most. That's what I think God wants.
I love that. I think it's so true. I think we're just growing. I think purity was never the ultimate goal. That's what I hear you saying.
Yeah.
Purity was a precursor to God's presence.
Yes.
I just think like, oh, if we get that, then we don't need to get stuck anymore on like purify yourself, purify yourself. Like if you're missing the presence of Jesus, you're missing it. Like you're just so focused on,
Yes.
we're going back again to how we started this podcast. Like, are you good or not good? Like, can we get past that as men? This isn't like how do
Yes.
you show up in accountability circles? If you're not processing your feelings, and what's driving you and the beauty that's motivating you to be the best husband you can be and the best father you can be and the leader you can be, if you're not actively walking with Jesus and just trying your best to abide, what are you experiencing? The highs, the lows, all of it. Let's get out of this I'm doing good or I'm doing bad, and let's encompass all of it.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's yeah. That's so
Sam,
good.
thanks for being with us. This has been an amazing episode.
I
I'm
agree.
so grateful. I just want to say thank you again. We're going to put in all the notes how you can find out more about Sam and all that he's working on and what he's doing. Sam, is there anything else you'd like to add as some closing thoughts to this? Anything that you're excited about you're working on, or how our listeners can find out about you? Anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I um have an ongoing conversation on Substack. I would love to meet you there where I write on more stuff and these topics and other things. And we have a monthly conversation on what I write there. So you can meet me there. We get to talk and actually get to know each other. So it's just samjolman.substack.com. Obviously, would love for you to read my book as well.
Yes,
And
there's a link to it
um,
in our notes, so make sure you get
oh,
that
that's
book.
awesome. But I've just loved this conversation. I love the work you guys are doing, and this is rich to be with kindred hearts.
Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Sam. It's great having you on.
Thank you.